We have filed a lawsuit directly against the Smithsonian. We stand up for free speech in our country. We stand up for the First Amendment rights of our clients. And this is an interesting situation because they pick on young people, students, who are just going about their day, want to visit the Air and Space Museum, check out some exhibits, see some cool stuff, and go home. And yet they make them out to be like they're engaged in some kind of illegal activity. The first time they get harassed, they're not sure it's actually direct harassment. They're going through security, and the security guard says, take off your hat. So you think, okay, maybe that's just to go through like the metal detector. Fine. And then they say kind of don't put it back on. Then they see people with hats on, including hats with political messages. These are high school students. They get what other people are wearing. Yep. They can read, they can see. And so they see people with other messages. They see lots of people with hats on. It's freezing cold that day. I was in Washington that day. It was in the 40s or something like that. And they put their beanies back on, and they're just walking through the museum. They're not protesting. They're just walking through the museum. They come across the Wright brothers exhibit. And they all have said this to us because it's very specific. And that's the second time you have two security guards come up to them and start harassing them, cursing at them. I mean, using the most vile curse words you can use in front of minors. Remember, they're high school students, but some are minors. And then they kind of chase them out. The students decide to leave on their own. They've said, we're tired. It's like been a long day. We're going out the door. And when they were going out the door, another security guard approaches them.
He comes up to us, rubbing his hands together, saying, y'all are about to make my day. He tells us he's got reports saying we said no to taking our hats off and we're in trouble for some odd reason. And one of the students repeats the talking point saying it's used for identification, and he wasn't having it. I then said, this is a violation of our First Amendment right. This is a government-funded building. He said it's a neutral zone, and that doesn't apply here.
They're respectful. Yeah, they're nice, but they're like, this doesn't seem right.
They're going to question.
Oh, no. I talked
why
about
not?
them. They said, I couldn't believe this was happening to us. It was like a story on TV.
Yeah.
And here it is happening to us. And it was like not just once, twice, 3 times in about a half hour.
Yeah.
They're being followed around the museum, chased around the museum. And we knew, after representing the Tea Party groups, the IRA, this doesn't happen randomly.
Yeah. It's not in a
I can
vacuum.
already tell people, we have clients from other museums. We're likely about to sue the National Archives next. If you know a lot about security guards, they don't come up with constitutional law, legal terms without being trained to use them. So what we want to know is what they were trained before the March for Life. And the Smithsonian opened the door to this lawsuit because they said in their statement, Logan, we also trained them after. But they didn't tell us what they trained them to do.
Using words like retraining should actually be, like you said, that's a mistake that they maybe even made by saying that, because admitting that they were trained in a way that for some reason a majority of the security guards, maybe more than just at the Air and Space Museum, were deciding to make pretty aggressive stances against pro-lifers.
Telling these students something is going to be written up about them. I think that's the final kicker in this situation. It's one thing to even say, take it off, and then you put it back on and to kind of curse at you, which they did curse at them. It's a whole other thing to say that there's going to be some follow-up action by that officer. Like the federal government may come knocking on your door because you put your hat on. Something very important here is that this initial group is always the key group that speaks up, that comes to us and we contact and is willing to go out and do to Hannity, willing to come on our broadcast, willing to put themselves forward.
Put their face
because
forward.
Then
yep.
we hear from other people. Because people think, oh, maybe this was just a security guard having a bad day or a one-off incident. And then you realize because they spoke up, these brave students speak up, and we've seen this so many times in ACLJ history, 16 and 17-year-olds speaking up for rights that become, again, major cases to define your First Amendment rights.
Yeah. This was not a simple, and I'm sure they have the footage. This is not a simple, these people were politely asked to leave by one security guard or asked to take off their hats. This was over and over and over, profanity-laced, yelling at children.
They're a young teenager.
Yeah. What would you do? Thankfully, a lot of them are brave enough to stand up, because right now a lot of people wouldn't.
No, most people would not. I mean, the truth is, like I say, you have to give them a lot of credit for speaking up, because they are the ones who then other people say, I think that happened to me that day.